Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMorty, and I was and still am a medical doctor trying to pursue a career in acting. Is anyone else really tired this week? I know. We're all tired all the time, but I don't know what it was about this morning. I woke up just exhausted. Granted, I have been covering a lot of shifts for people who've been sick with COVID and stuff like that in the hospital. I know that's everywhere. It's not just healthcare providers. Teachers are doing it, stuff like that. But man, I don't know what it is. It's kind of that gloomy spring day, and I realize that all the episodes of my podcast, I've been whining about it being winter, now it's spring, but I should be appreciative. But man, I'm tired. I had a bunch of auditions to do today, which, yay, I'm really excited about. But isn't it weird how we get these auditions and we're so excited, but then there's just this feeling of, oh crap, now I need to prep for an audition, even though you've been waiting for it for so long. Anyways, I have the cure, I think, for fatigue, April fatigue. And his name is Ken Ferguson. He is my guest this week on episode number 12, or is it 13, depending on if you believe in the Trish Rainoni multiverse from last week. Anyway, my guest this week, like I said, is Ken Ferguson. This guy is one of the coolest people I've met in a really long time. We met at a Larissa Mayer workshop through Jeb Beach, and she loved him, of course. I mean, everyone who meets him loves him. She noticed behind him he had a diploma, and she was like, oh, what is that there? And he goes, oh, that's my teaching degree. I used to be a teacher. And of course, in my mind, I was like, ding, 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 I'm going to harass you to be in my podcast. So I did, and wow, what a cool guy. I'm so excited for you to see this episode. You'll see, and as if you've seen on my social media, he has a very distinct look, very distinct beard. So he goes out for very, very, very specific roles. We take a massive deep dive into that, about type and typecasting, marketability with, again, very distinct facial features and facial hair. Should he shave his beard? Should he not? Advice he's heard from people, advice he's heard from acting coaches and, just the general public who love to give advice. Anyways, I think it's a really great conversation. He is filled with energy and has the coolest story. I'm so excited for you to see the guy who I think has the most amount of range in any actor I've ever met. Please enjoy Ken Ferguson. Great to see you.
Nice to meet you in person.
I know. That was Larissa Mayer, I think, right? Yeah. She loved you.
Yes.
It was great.
I'm a kooky looking guy.
And I remember the actress you were paired with was unbelievable as well too. You guys were just great together. It was so fun to watch.
Yeah, she and I, we really clicked, and it was really nice to have that, because I don't know if you've felt it, like sometimes I'd say most of the time actors, like when you were saying that you had never really gone to the waiting rooms and done a lot of the in-person auditions, but like some people sometimes can be a bit standoffish because they're trying to prepare and you don't want to bother them with lines and things like that. So like you kind of walk into these things a little bit more tepid, tempering yourself. But like we were both like, hey, what's up? Like super excited, because I was avoiding taking online classes for pretty much all of the pandemic, because I was like, it's not worth it. Why would I spend money to be on video? I want that interaction. I had done Second City, the actors training program, and it was all in person, and it was very hands-on, interacting in the moment, and I found it really helpful for auditions to try to switch on a dime when they ask for those corrections or redirects. And so it was funny because she, I think, had done one other one, but yeah, like the role that she took, I think also was very much herself, in that she was doing a rom-com, like, best friend role, and she can market the shit out of that, because yeah, Larissa was really impressed with her, and I was too. I was like, yeah, you're the best friend. Whereas for me, it's like, I'm generally a very happy, like, at least trying to be, optimistic, trying to be social, hang out with people as much as what I can, because like what you said too about like the shark, you know, if it doesn't swim it dies because the water and the oxygen needs to go over its gills, like they can't just like pump their own gills without moving. That's what I am like socially. Like I get energy from hanging out with people and having a full schedule. So lockdown's been really weird and COVID's just been really weird because I'm not that kind of a person to just sit around like you were saying, twiddling your thumbs. So with Devin, I was like, hey, I like, maybe I went in a bit too strong because I was just like, someone to talk to. I haven't like acted for a while. And like, I had just gone union in like the end of November. And for a non-union world, you know, you're really busy. I mean, I'd say especially for me, just being like a 30-year-old man, because it's like, you could be a dad, but you could also be like something a bit younger, you know, in your 30s at least. You've got like to the 40s, to the 30s, maybe I'm like aging out of the younger 30s, I don't know, but like when I cut this beard off and everything, it's different. But with it, she and I were talking about it, and I was just like, I have a really hard time with the role that I'm doing because it was really angry, and I was like trying to murder my girlfriend, and so I had like a prop gun and I was running through a warehouse, and like I had to let my roommates know that everything was okay, that I wasn't gonna be like hurting myself or anyone else, but that I had to yell, which is another complication of COVID, just these self-tapes all the time. But yeah, with it, it was just like us kind of having a moment to like bat ideas off of each other, and it was just so nice to have a supportive person in that room because, you know, like anger is something that's hard to come by for me. And so like I can look really angry, especially with like the long beard, and like if I have like my head shaved, it curls like are like fun, and you know, you're a clown, you're kooky or whatever, like bouncy personality, and I generally prescribe to that. But the problem is that like I need to learn how to do those roles because some people see me that way, and you know, like with acting, especially I just took the Sarah Kay and Jeb Beach class yesterday. She's like, you need to be whatever role they think that you are. She's like, if they see you as this, there was a woman, I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent and I will come back to it, but there was a woman yesterday who is 6 feet, almost 6 feet tall. And she's saying, you know, I'm more of a soft person and I definitely fall into these roles, but you know, because I'm so tall, like I'll get these castings where it's like I have to be like a hard bitch or like, you know, an Amazonian woman, or you know, you're kind of falling into an archetype just because of your body. But I mean that happens with the film industry and TV, you know. But for her, she was like trying to ask about like how to really develop that. And so yeah, I could relate a lot to what she was saying because yeah, like when I have this big beard and this crazy long hair, it's like you look like you're a hippie, or you look like you're a stoner, or you look like, you know, you are an unemployed alcoholic, or you know, whatever. If a casting director is taking their time out to be a part of a coaching session, they want to be there. And casting directors in general want you to get the job.
Right.
That's the big scary thing. Like when I would go to the rooms at first, I'd feel like, oh, I hope I get this. Oh, I need to make an impression. Oh, they're probably all against me. And it's like, no, if the casting director has brought you in, they see potential in you and they want you to get the job. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that they don't want the other people in the room to get the job. They just want to bring the best people in. So like casting directors are there to support you and get you into the space that you need to book the role, because I mean, they're getting paid, but like the more successful people they get from, you know, booking after booking after booking, it's better for everybody. So they want the best people in the room. So even if you're nervous, you need to just remember, like, my place is here and I'm here for a reason.
Mm-hmm. I think we so much focus on, I need to get this correct and what is correct for the scene and correct for this. And yeah, we do. But I think so much of it is the directability part, right? Like, yeah, she saw you do the scene. And she's like, okay, well, now try it this way. Oh, there's him. There's more of Ken as an actor, as opposed to there's more of Ken as a cop. It's like, let's see him as an actor. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was interesting, too, is like with Larissa Mayer, she's like, make sure your tapes you're submitting are all separate because I can't edit later on. But then, like you go to different casting directors and they have different
Mm-hmm.
preferences. And like Larissa had all those things that she was talking about, like, I can't think of any off the top of my head right now because that was a month ago and this other one was so fresh. But like Sarah was making it seem almost like, yeah, have like two strong
Mm-hmm.
choices when you submit. Not necessarily like pick one, but like show a bit of range in your auditions. And like I remembered, maybe it's just the difference of self tapes now, but like I had taken some other classes, not with casting directors or anything, but they're like, no, make a strong choice, make that character, and do that character the way that you've planned it because that's what they
Mm-hmm.
want. And she was kind of saying like, no, try it a couple different ways if you're submitting
Yeah.
self tapes because we want to see a range and like it's what you're saying. I'm springboarding off
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, take me back to what brought you into this crazy industry. How did you get started into acting?
So it's funny. I was my public school. We had plays in kindergarten, and I was Baby Bear because I was a really short little kid. I was a little blondie. I might as well have been Goldilocks though, not Baby Bear. But the hair wasn't quite as curly and long at that time. That happened when I hit puberty. My hair went from blonde and straight to curly and brown, with little tufts of blonde in there. But I ended up yeah, like loving plays and acting, but like there wasn't like a drama program for like, grade ones or grade twos and stuff like that. And then you think about it, I I liked singing, I liked dancing, I liked performing, but like a lot of that in the country is kind of like countryside is kind of like, no, you need to play sports, be it soccer, like be a man, like kind of a deal. So I didn't start acting really again until high school, and my brother had been an actor in high school and had been in like Fame the Musical and like the whole like high school's set of parents and students would all come and watch. So I remember watching him on stage and being like, "Wow, my brother's a star!" And a bunch of his friends actually went to college or university for their acting programs. And I just remember my mom talking to them later on when they had come back after, like the first semester. And they were like, oh, it's really different from high school drama. And like, there's always, I think, for a lot of people, their parents are a little bit more discouraging of going into an acting program in school. So I never went into it. And I went for geography and environmental science because I got good grades in high school in it. And I was interested in the world and biology and different biospheres, like climates, temperatures, tectonics, all those things were so interesting to me. So I went to university for it. And yeah, I ended up falling in love and moving to Japan and ended up being an English teacher there. And I loved the job. And our relationship ended, but I loved that job. And I was like, I should go back to teach. So I got a teaching degree. And through that process, I realized like how disorganized of a person I am. I am not a bad teacher, but I will say that I yeah, have a really hard time with some of the expectations to be a teacher. There's so much marking, there's so much grading, there's so much work after school, and like you really get emotionally invested in your kids. Like you really want them to do the best, but you've got some family situations that aren't the best, and it doesn't even matter like income because you could have parents that are really rich that like don't spend any time with their kids, or like a dad or a mom who likes to drink, and then you've got I had these two students that had yeah just been through the ringer that year. Like um their mom had like disappeared on like some drug binge, and the grandma was taking them like in their dad was in prison, and it was just like a long list of things. but like the little boy was in kindergarten, the little girl was in grade 2, and she was like a real fighter. And this one day I was at the assembly and there was this song about family, and she wasn't a part of the choir, but she knew all the words to the song, and I saw her singing along in the stands, and she knew like all the actions, and she was singing this song about family and like loving your mom and whatever the lyrics were. And I just saw her bawling her eyes out and wiping her eyes while she was singing. And
Yeah.
I went to the teachers, and like the crazy thing was she had already been in a school before that and then came to this one, and then she had to move again because it was in like 6 months, and because their house was getting sold that they were renting. But I went and I talked to some of the teachers afterwards, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this job. Like I was just like, I just want to adopt them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that we feel like that
Yeah.
a lot of the time. And like the conversations that you have with some parents, like you need to deal with different dynamics, and some people don't think that you're qualified, and they're going to challenge you, and they're going to say, whatever about your lessons. And it's a very, and I mean, man, I'm so happy I'm not a teacher during COVID, because it's just like, it's being an actor really for us, because you're trying to get these kids to learn. Oh man, I can't even imagine, because like you're getting watched by an audience as well as the kids, and trying to redirect it, and then being in and out of the classroom. Like people were like, now's your time, you should do substitute teaching, get in. Well, it's good, because when I came out of university, it was the 1-year program, and there weren't many job prospects. But there's this kind of split where it's more advantageous to be like a woman in science for high school, and it's more advantageous to be a man in primary school, because the numbers are so skewed to one sex more than the other.
Right.
And so I had started to apply to teaching boards, and the big thing was, I was a bit juvenile about it, but my mom was pushing me really, really hard to be a teacher. And like every single time she'd call me, it would be like the first question, like, you need to get a pension, you need to look after your future, have you applied to the boards, oh, there's a job here if you need it, oh, you should join the reading clubs. And it was like there was never any other conversation. And one day I had moved to Toronto after I had lived in Peterborough, because I went to teachers college at Trent. And I lost it on her. I was just like, I don't even feel like this is my decision. I feel like anything that I do for teaching will be to appease you. And I was like, you know what? I was applying to the boards, but now I don't want to. Congrats, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, you forced this.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted me to do it, you should have let me do it in my own time. But I ended up being like, it's funny because you're talking second act actor. I've had so many weird jobs because of that decision. I mean, before that, like growing up in a rural area, like I did corn pollination, so I bred corn, and then I worked at Subway, and then in university, like I did a bit of serving for an events venue here in Toronto. Then I was an English teacher out in Japan. Then I went to teachers college, and then I came back. And in my geography years, I was actually working on waste audits. So we collected garbage and sorted it to see how the recycling programs were going. Yeah, it was disgusting. It was like diapers, like it was awful in like 36 degrees Celsius heat at a dump.
Oh my
like
God.
it was anyway. So we don't need to go into too much detail with that, but
yeah, then Japan and teaching English, coming back, doing teachers college. And I had a summer in there of serving at the events venue here in Toronto. And then I moved back to Toronto because I wanted to, have a nightlife, have a social life. I was 27. Most of my friends were here. And there's just more things to do. Growing up in a small town, it's limited for jobs. And also, you have to drive everywhere. And having lived in Japan, I biked everywhere when I was there. And I was like, why the fuck don't I bike? So I went to Peterborough and I was biking a lot. And then I moved back to Toronto and I just biked. I've been biking all year long for like over a decade now because it's just so convenient. Like everything's so close. You don't need a car, and cars are a nuisance here.
Mm-hmm.
But I started working at a bar, and I was a delivery driver for a kids' food catering company. And then I ended up leaving that job and becoming a court reporter. So I sat in on people. I did not look like this. I was very, very trimmed beard, cut hair, all the 9 yards. Is it 9 yards? The whole 9 yards of like trying to look more professional.
Right.
And it was like the downtown financial district. Oh, Bay and King. I'm like walking around with lawyers. Even though I was like, essentially we take the audio equipment, we set it up, and then what the company did was take the audio, a typist would type it out, and then it would be transcripts and legal documents for court. So it was all civil litigation. So it was like accident benefit, judgment debtor exams, copyright. There was also some delving into professional colleges. So I went to the College of Nurses of Ontario very often.
Ooh.
And those were always the most interesting cases.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, like when you're going to some of those, you're just like, oh my God, I'm along with med mal, like the medical malpractice cases, because we would get those too, where patients were suing doctors. Yeah, like you would have a guilt about it because it was so interesting.
Yeah.
And you wanted more cases like this. But then you're like, oh my God, these things that are happening to these people, like on both sides.
I know.
Because like, like, oh, someone missed something in their notes. Somebody, lost a limb or had an organ removed or like ended up having cancer spread through their body or, like whatever, maybe like a patient attacked a nurse and then the nurse responded incorrectly. And so you're like, you feel bad for both sides.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting job, but what came down to it was, and this is where like acting comes back in, is I'm not that person. I'm not Bay and King.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not someone, I love getting dressed up. But it kind of felt like being an actor. And, like I was bartending at night, so I was tired too, because I was trying to pay off my student loans. And I did that quite quickly because I was just working so much. But yeah, I was like, how long do I want to do this? And I ended up taking a voice acting class with Kim Herden Casting as I was still doing it. And I was like, oh, that was kind of fun. I was like, I should sign up for more classes. So while I was still a court reporter, I signed up for a clowning class. I was part of a circus here I was part of circus classes, clowning classes, for a circus called Lunacy Cabaret. And it's such a fun show. It's like, if you ever come down to Toronto and they're having it, I'll take you personally.
That'd be amazing.
It's such a good environment. And the two clowns that run the show ran a clowning class called Sketchy and Fesso's Crash Course in Vaudeville. So I took number 1 and I took number 2. And it was going through different types of clowning and going through different types of being silly and like also having to react seriously to someone being silly. So like one of the activities in that was you had to go around the room and everyone's kind of like kooky and fun and want to be silly. And some of us look strange. because we're being clowns, right? And you have to walk around the room and you have to say hello and hello. Everyone has to say hello, walking around, walking around. And then as response, you're not supposed to smile at all. Everyone just saying hello. And then it goes to everyone, one half of us say hello, the other one says fuck you. So you're like, hello. And then someone just responds to you, fuck you. And like you're supposed to say deadpan, right? But like sometimes you would just be laughing from the hellos because we're all like walking around in a circle and we're all kind of goofy people. And it was like a real exercise in trying to like, no, manage your stage presence, manage your reactions. How do you deal with an audience member if you pull them up and they're being crazy? Like, so we learned how to do audience pulls and like who good people are to pull up. And in this hello and fuck you, then it turned into both of us being like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And you just seemed like robots saying, fuck you. And this class just like, it was only like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but it was like such a highlight of my week. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing in this job? Because like on top of that, you're around people that are angry, that are crying, that are getting sued. They're super stressed. Like as a court reporter, it was a really interesting position to be in because you're not invested either way. You're supposed to be a neutral party. You're just there to produce the transcript, to get the evidence. So you're in the middle of two people screaming, like, and it was just like, oh my God, this person's losing a limb. Oh, this couple is now having a divorce and they're going through like old love letters that they sent to each other. And now they're just like bitter and angry. And it's like families fighting over like inheritances and like hating each other like brothers and sisters or like, it was a lot of negativity to be around.
Yeah.
And you don't really notice the emotional baggage that you kind of start to take on because you're like, who would want to be a lawyer in this stream? But like, you'd feel like isolated from it, but it's like the kid hiding under the kitchen table while the parents are screaming at each other, And then you have to interrupt them sometimes because you're like, sorry, everybody, we're a bit too loud. Other rooms are hearing us. Or like, you have to be like, sorry, what was that you said? Or like, you need to move that book off of that microphone, those kinds of things. And I just like realized like after 2.5 years, I was distracting myself by going on these trips because it was a very flexible job. So bartending, I could take time off, and court reporting had like busy seasons and slow seasons. The summer was quite slow. So it was like, and Christmas was slow. So it was like, save up money, work, and then spend it all while going to Iceland. And then it was like, work, spend it all going to Turkey. And then have to come back and work. And when I hit 30, I actually had this moment when I came back and I didn't have as much money. I spent more than what I thought because I went to Paris. And it's an expensive city, and the euro is like double our money. And I came back, and one of my teeth broke. And then a couple weeks later, my cell phone broke. And then a couple weeks later, my laptop broke. And it was a realization for me where I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, it's great to travel, but do I want to be in this constant stream of building up and then just like letting go of all of it? And like, now that I've had these like 3 things and I'm 30, I'm like, oh shit, I should probably start saving money. Awkward. I then decide to go into acting, but not known for the stability, but I went to Japan and I made the decision that I was going to come back. I quit both those jobs and I made the decision that I was going to try acting in Japan. And then I chickened out from that, but I was like, I'm going to try acting when I come back to Toronto. I'm going to get a place and I am going to try my hardest. So I signed up for a background acting agency, ML Talent, and it was great. It was a good experience. I knew I had to work my butt off because they're long days, but doing background was so good for trying to learn if you've got the stamina for this. Because it's like, if you make it into a movie, it's long days on set. You know, you're like, I was on Suicide Squad, and the one day was like 19 hours, and they're like, more energy, dance, dance. So you're like dancing, like the poor women in heels, and like the drag queens that I was with. It's like they were tucked for like 20 hours, and you're like hair and makeup all day long. I did this series where I bathed in a bunch of strangers' bathtubs, meeting people throughout Toronto, and that became a bit of like a global thing where I got covered by German news and Swiss news, and I was in a bunch of newspapers and the Star, and that was like a really fun, exciting experiment. And then I ended up going to Europe for a couple months to do that, and then I came back, and I was like, I need to get more into acting again. Like, what am I doing? So out of nowhere, I got contacted by a modeling agency. That's a whole other story. I'm not with them anymore. But definitely my advice for anyone that wants to go into acting is to go to the ACTRA website and make sure that the agent that you're going for is part of their affiliation on their page, because there are so many people that are claiming that they're agents, and there are so many people that are claiming that they're a talent agency or a modeling agency, and they do some shady shit. Some of them, some of them are good, but yeah, mine got me my foot in the door. I booked a couple commercials with them, but I ended up essentially paying like a 40% commission, even though the contract said 20%. And your average commission, your commission should be 15%, or 10% for, I think, print, and then 20% for background.
Yeah.
Something
Maybe.
like that. But
yeah.
like I knew I was signing on with this agency at a higher rate than expected, but I was like, you know what? I don't really have much of a demo reel. I've got a couple of like print things that I've booked, and I did a commercial before. You know, like I had booked on my own. And in 2016, I had booked my first commercial. And then I booked a couple in 2017. And then I signed on with an agent, and she's my current agent, Heinz Management. And the difference of the quality of auditions was like the modeling agency was getting me out a lot. But the quality of the auditions and the professionalism of the auditions really increased when I got to Amy. And my first year with her, I booked 3 TV shows and 8 commercials. So I was like above average for that year and for most other people in my age category. And then the next year I booked 9 commercials. And it's just like so indicative of having the right agent.
Yeah.
And also auditioning a lot, because your nerves start to disappear once you're like, holy shit, you know, I do this 3 times a week, you know. Or you're like, I had one week when I had first started that I had 10 auditions, and I was just like, I was biking from one, like learning my lines on my bicycle across the city to the other one. God. And like that was definitely an outlier week. Like I don't think I've ever had that repeat, but it was like a couple self tapes and then like 8 auditions. And the one day I had like 3 auditions, and it was like way out on the west end of the city, way out on the east end of the city, you know, and then in the middle of the city. So you're like ping ponging back and forth. Yeah. And they also didn't work with like the amount of like the order. Like this one was like, you know, it didn't make any sense with like, okay, let's do it geographically in order. It was
of course
like,
not.
Yeah, like this one was like at 1, and then this one was at like 9, but this one was like 10.
Yeah.
You know, so you're just like
all over
ping ponging. And yeah, like it's been a real switch going to union. Because I started in, you know, the winter, and like primarily in non-union, it's a lot of acting for commercials. And so your busy season's kind of like end of summer, like middle of August to like mid-November-ish. So like that's when like it really gets busy because they're trying to sell everything for Christmas, right?
Right.
And then things are pretty dead for December, but like things kind of start to pick up a little bit in January. Like you might have like a couple here in January. So now it's like a whole new game for me because I'm like, oh, what's the union world like? And it's also different because you're union as well.
Yeah.
Talking to Sarah Kay, she's like, it's going to be so busy this summer. We're already like really, really busy with streaming services. Because I had asked her the question yesterday about pilot season, you know? How like pilot season used to be like more of a thing.
It was a thing, yeah.
Yeah, like that there was like this season when you'd go and you'd try out for all these shows. She's like, now it's kind of just all year long. And she was like, it's going to be busy from like March to, she was like, November.
I hope
so. I mean, yeah, fingers crossed. I'm going to probably have to cut my beard off. And I understood that too.
Beard man.
Yeah, bearded guy.
Bearded guy.
But that's the thing. It's like, it got me the niche role for that show.
Yeah.
But just like with commercial acting, to be more marketable, I need to have this all gone. Like you get really interesting roles when you look like this. Like you're, you know, a hippie or a drug addict or whatever, or you're homeless or, you know, you're the cool guy that like is an axe throwing hipster or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, you know, you're in an open relationship with your wife, Phoenicia, and you know
on the commune,
right,
following the Bhagwan,
yeah. Like those things happen, but they're further between. So like, she's like, honestly, like I would say, you know, why not get yourself to be more marketable?
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not telling you to do anything, but make your stake, book your things to get money, and then you can start doing this again. Because this is like a very cyclical thing for me.
Right.
Like I'll go from clean shaven to this look towards the end of the year. And, you know, maybe it's not the best for the commercial season, you know, like I should be looking more clean cut. So
more Bay and King.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. I did like a photo project with cutting my big beard off when I came back from Japan the last time in 2015. And it was like kind of like feeling like I was becoming a sellout because I feel kind of more my authentic self like this. Like I'd be like, oh, no. like Robin Williams, like out of like, what year is it?
Jumanji.
Yeah. I feel like him a lot of the time. Also, it's just like who I am as a person. I think I connect a lot with like Robin Williams.
Yeah.
But, and like other actors like that, like there's elements of like Jim Carrey or like Mike Myers or like all those people, like great comedians. But you've got like Amy Poehler, but you've got these people that you connect to, but they're also like they were discovered kind of more clean shaven, you know, like they were like aside from like kind of Zach Galifianakis, like he was like this, but that was a very specific role.
Interesting.
So for me, I know like this I feel is like kind of more my authentic self, but I also know based on my success rates for booking things and also on like romantic levels or like, you know, heads turning at a bar or eyes checking you out, this isn't it. You know, like I get hair in my mouth all the time when I'm eating. Like, imagine kissing that. Like, it's not practical. I definitely like attract a certain. I wouldn't say that I'm not attractive, but I'm not traditionally attractive, and I also don't necessarily feel like sexy like this. You know,
right?
I feel like fun, and I feel like I could be like that gross kind of pervy weirdo.
Right.
Right? Like I'm like the wandering backpacker in Costa Rica or Thailand trying to discover myself.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because I've had a lot of discussion with people about typecasting, right? And you think, I mean, if this is how you feel your most authentic self, I mean, you want to project that in your auditions and stuff because that'll come through, right?
Yeah.
Feeling authentic and genuine. But then you also get, okay, I'm not your look is so typecastable.
Yes.
But you can also play such a huge other range. Like, what is the right answer? I don't know. I think it comes down to, you're so well trained in everything that you can still be a genuine, authentic self when you are clean shaven, even though, you do feel more authentic and genuine with your beard. It's because you are an actor and can act authentic and genuine.
I think that's the real thing, is like the good thing about having these classes with the casting directors are the ones that are like rooting for you, saying their critiques. Again, it shouldn't hurt. It should be like something that you're like, okay, I can learn from this point. Mm-hmm. It's I had this activity the first day I took a Second City class, and it was like on camera training. Like, it was like an intro class for what you should expect from the industry, and it was awesome. It was like, how much should you pay for headshots? What are good agencies? What are the rates that you're expected for commission? It was like, what do you expect when you go to a casting studio? And like, I just wanted to get like an idea of what the industry was like.
Yeah.
So there were a bunch of us noobs in the room, and she was like, okay, we're all going to sit in the center of the room, and I'm going to ask 13 questions. It was like 12 or 13 questions. Excuse me. And no one is supposed to be offended by this. I want each of you to write out your honest opinion of what you think about this person. And so she was like, this is what it's like to go into a casting room. You are going to have people looking at you that don't know you, that have their immediate visual understanding of who you are. Like, maybe you've auditioned for them before, but because you guys are all noobs, you haven't.
Right.
So I want you to feel like what it's like. And from this, what I want you to learn is, if someone sees a character that you don't like, you have to think how you can be that character. So she was like, okay, I sat in there, right? And she's like, is this person trustworthy? Yes or no? Is this person from the country or the city? Yes or no? Is this person a parent? Yes or no? What is their job? And like all these different things that you get. And so I remember, a lot of it was characters I already said, like, because I looked like this. It was like hippie, drug addict, single, untrustworthy, the fun uncle. And I was like, ooh, I'm the fun uncle. I am a fun uncle. Okay. And like, homeless, like those kind of things popped up. And then the next week I came back, and like my beard and everything was gone, and everyone was like, are you in the right? Oh, they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're like, are you in the right room? But another woman in the class, she and I became friends through it, but like, she's super pretty, but I wrote, you look like that bitch in high school. Like, you're that mean girl. And it was like, all these things can be offensive if you take it the wrong way, but it's like, how would you behave if you were addicted? How would you behave if you were homeless? How would you behave if you were a surf bum on the beaches of Tamarindo? Like those kinds of things. And so it was like, just to preface it, like, what is your character? How can you absorb those roles? And that's what Sarah Kay said yesterday. She's like, ultimately, you need to be whatever the character is. You need to absorb that role. And if it means that you have more of an advantage cutting all your hair off, do it. And like, there was a woman yesterday that's like very stereotypically pretty, blonde, white. She's like, I've been thinking of shaving my head. And she said, I can't give you, I'm not saying shave your head, but that gives you an advantage for some of the roles that are being booked right now, because there are fewer people in that pool.
Right.
Whereas like her advice to me was kind of like, not saying that you should do it, but like, why not choose the thing that's more marketable?
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
So it was a bit of a teeter-totter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think kind of what you were saying before, once you get more of a breadth of work underneath your belt, you can be seen as the Jim Carrey's, Robin Williams of the world. They can say, oh, he was bearded guy. But look, oh, he's also Bay King too. Whoa, look at the range this guy can play if we just ask him to grow a beard or ask him to shave the beard, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite a chameleon for looks, which is, I think, an asset, and I hope it's something that is seen. You know, like I said earlier, background acting doesn't count for anything and actually can kind of hurt you. Commercial acting doesn't seem to count for anything either. You know, because it's like, oh yeah, you could smile for a toothpaste commercial and it was a silent on camera role.
Yeah.
But now can you cry on demand and pretend like your two children are dead? Like it's like a totally different world of acting, and it's the hurdle that I'm currently crossing over, because I've booked TV shows and I've done roles that were more serious, but the bulk of my work is commercial.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm fighting against.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've noticed you've been able to pull from your previous careers into now your career into acting? Any transferable skills?
Oh my God, the court reporting place, it was like scripts. We were making scripts.
Interesting.
So mannerisms that certain people had, or ways of speaking that certain people had, like the grumbling people, and then like the yeah, just like such a diversity of characters. Because like, yeah, you've got the corporate world and the people that are like bragging about what private school their child goes to, and like not even shaking your hand. Like they'll go around the entire room of like other lawyers and clients and like totally ignore you. And like sometimes I'd be like, hi, I'm Ken.
Yeah.
Like I'm also a human in here, and I'm also like a professional in this situation.
Yeah.
And like,
it's like, I was saying, it's like working in it's a lab. Like you're watching characters being built, right?
Yeah.
That you can just pull. Yeah.
Oh my God. And it's so good to like, one thing that I think was really helpful for me, and is a really interesting premise of this, is like, I didn't go through college or university. I've been taking a lot of classes like clowning classes or Second City or Pro Actors Lab, or these classes with casting directors. And so I'm not like, formally trained, which would be more helpful for ACTRA. But because I did these jobs and I have this experience, and I also know, like, when I was 30, I was like, fuck it, let's try it. I mean, what have I got to lose? I can always go back and teach in Japan. I can always go back to my teaching degree and actually pursue that. I could go back to court reporting or bartending. But yeah, like having that experience, it was really a kick in the ass for me to like fucking try it. You only have one life, from what we know. Get out there, and if it fails, you've got all these backups that you can do. I mean, you're self-sufficient. Whereas I feel like for a lot of people that went through acting programs, I've got two friends that were like, I can't believe how much you're auditioning. And they had both gone through acting programs at universities and colleges. And they're like, we weren't auditioning as much as you are. And I think because the age range that I'm in, so, like a lot of new grads are like 21. And like, yeah, there are teen shows, but there's a lot more flexibility in the 30 range where you're like dad now, but you could also, if you're young enough looking, maybe you could be like, university drama TV show like Felicity, or, those kinds of things. And so, not saying that I look like that now, but yeah, with having done those jobs and then like also leaving it because I felt like I was just like selling my soul after a while, I was like, fuck it, what have I got to lose? And I now have all of these characters, and acting to me is an adventure, whereas like you're a student inside a school. You've done Shakespeare, you've done musicals, you've written your own things, you produce, you act, you direct, and then all of a sudden you come out and it's like, I'm auditioning for a Taco Bell commercial. Like it feels,
I just finished Chekhov. Yeah.
Yeah, like it feels like probably for some people a real degradation of the art, of their skill. Whereas like I'm like, okay, let's take it piece by piece. I'll try the background, get my toes in the water, see how it is. Oh, it's cool. I was on a movie with James Franco. Holy shit, I'm in Suicide Squad. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Murdoch Mysteries. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm on the TV show Rain. Like I was on all these different things. And it gave you the motivation to like push on. And then, going to the auditions, because you don't audition when you're doing background. But then going to auditions, I was like, oh, this is a new game. This is more stressful. Oh, people are judging me. Whereas like background, there are lots of things to be said about background, about like working conditions and like food and whatever. And like, how actors eat first and crew. And then it's like extra background. And then you're the background for the food line. But like, I was always like, whoa, this is cool. Okay. And I'm a pretty energetic person. So, I could be up all night or like all day and then go to another gig the next day. And I'd be like, whoa, this is fun. I'm acting, I'm moving. I'm not really getting paid that much, but a lot of the time you've got downtime. So you're sitting and you're reading. And then going to auditions, It was like, oh, cool. Okay. This is a little bit more intimidating, but I was still like, I auditioned for Taco Bell. Okay. And then you like when you first start out, you're like, maybe I'm gonna get it, because you're like also trying to pay rent, and you're like, you start relying on these big paychecks that you see, and that stresses you out more, and it's not necessarily a healthy way to look at it. But I was always very appreciative of any audition that I got, because I was like, I don't begrudge commercials, because the commercial world's been very helpful for me and very giving and very supportive. And so for me with the commercial world, I'm getting to a point where I want to do more TV and film, but I'm never going to say like, I won't ever do another commercial, at least in this point in my career, because it's like helped me stay alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you're looking forward to for this year? Because I know it's kind of a dismal time in just weather and temperature and COVID. Anything that you're looking forward to that you're getting excited about that keeps the kind of creative drive going?
Honestly, I'm excited to three things. So I've been skating a lot, and that's been great. Like I've been going to every single arena, like open rink in the city that there is possible, like almost every other day, because I've just been stressed out and I don't want to be stuck in home. So I've been meeting up with friends, and like it's really interesting how physical activity, when it's something as smooth as skating and gliding, makes your mind like ruminate over all of the things that are going on in your head. And like I'm a very much physical and energetic person, and so like for me to de-stress, it's not like doing yoga. For me, it's or like meditating. It's like jumping on a trampoline, or like rollerblading, or something more physical, but like that has like a flow to it. So skating has been one thing that I look forward to, and I've got a bunch of skating dates set up with friends, because it's outdoors. It's fairly COVID friendly and safe, and it's getting us active, because so many of us have like gotten gray hair and fat over this pandemic. Like so much gray came out in my beard through this. It was like
my
nuts.
Bangs are so gray.
And like, just, I don't know, not sleeping well, stress, like getting older, it all like seemed to like really, magnify. Like it really like sped things up. I booked a trip to Hawaii for a friend's wedding.
Ooh,
so I'm really like looking forward to actually traveling, because I haven't been anywhere since February of 2020. And I was in New York at that time. And then I guess the kind of creative world, whatever the union has in store for me and what shows I could potentially be on, is the big thing. And in order to do that, the thing that I'm excited about is I want to do a video of me getting my hair cut, but different types of characters that I can be, and different hairstyles. So the beard slowly getting trimmed down, and doing different outfits and doing different hairstyles and different wardrobes of like the ideas of like what your range is as as a character. Like, who are you with like a shaved head versus who are you with the long curly fluffy hair. So I want to do like I don't know if you've ever seen them, but like the 100 Years of Fashion, or the Decades of Men's Hair in the United States.
Yeah.
How they have like, the 2000s, and then it's like, oh, the 1950s was super slicked and a very thin mustache, or, whatever that kind of thing is. Since I have so much hair, I want to do something creative that plays with that.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I want to do something just for the fun of it, because I've done other things before where I've done like creative kind of like historical photo shoots, like where I've dressed up like a Roman governor, or like putting my thumb down, for the Colosseum.
Yeah.
So I've got like lots of like fun photo series that I've done with other people as like a collaboration with artists. But yeah, I want to do like kind of more of like a video this time of like the different looks and the different people that I can be. And maybe that'll be something helpful for my acting career too, because maybe people will see the differences in the characters I can be.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you're re-energized after that conversation, and thank you, Ken, for being my guest this week. Thank you for being that big old natural dose of caffeine that I really needed. I hope you'll tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Next week we have another industry episode, so I hope you'll tune in. Bye!